Hello and welcome to Fintech Diary at etbfsi.com. My name is Amol Dethe and I'm in conversation with Kavitha Subramanian, co-founder of Upstox. Kavitha, glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Amol. It's fabulous to be here as well.
Thank you so much. So Kavitha, we try to learn and tell our viewers, specifically our readers and viewers, in terms of what is it that this company is doing and what is the current state of the company in my first question. So straightforward, Kavitha, I would like you to tell us, something about a dashboard about Upstox in terms of how many employees do you have, what is the size of the traders or maybe the customers or maybe the young people or specifically the number of customers that you have who was trading in your platform. What was your last, fundraise, whether you're profitable or not. So tell us whatever you can about your company, which will make us understand what Upstox is.
Sure. So Amol, firstly, a quick blurb on what is Upstox. We're one of India's largest wealth platforms. Our mission is to enable every single Indian, no matter where you are, who you are, what's your wealth size, to invest optimally. Indians are naturally very good at saving, right? We're amongst the top savers globally, 30% plus savings rate. But I've had this conversation with so many folks across such different demographics. We are consistently bad at investing. And no matter, I ask the most educated people, people who are possibly even in finance, people who are in art, fashion, IT, people who are blue collar workers, one thing consistently stands out: we don't know where to invest. We don't know how to invest. Never been taught it in school and colleges. And, finance is one of those things that our parents never talk to us about. Right. So that's our mission and vision. Very happy to say that we have over 1 crore customers today. Upstox is one of the leading, most loved fintech apps on the Play Store with the highest rating of 4.6 on our app. We have over 600 employees, 600 proud Upstoxers. We are a family, so we have 600 family members. Our total fundraise so far is about $250 million, and the last fundraise pegged us as a multi-con, as they call it nowadays, $3.5 billion valuation. We are a profitable company as well.
How has been the business for you since you started? What is the major difference that you have seen in the business? Because we realized that during pandemic specifically, people started trading a lot, started buying and investing specifically in the stocks like there's no tomorrow. And that's where they jumped onto the even SIPs and every wealth product which came to their way. So that is one. How has this business shaping up for you? And when did you become profitable?
Upstox is a 10-plus-year-old company established in 2012. So we've seen multiple phases for India, and some of these are astounding journeys that we've been a part of. So for example, the initial phase, I want to say up to 2016, 2017, opening a demat account was a paper-based process. It was a 40-page document. You had to sign it like some 50 places. More often than not, it got rejected because some signature was missing. You know how it goes. We were opening about 500 accounts a month, primarily from the metros. This is up until 2016, 2017. And what happened then is Aadhaar came and was a massive disruptor. You could now suddenly e-sign your demat account opening form. And now suddenly we could go fully paperless. Upstox was a pioneer in this. We went fully paperless right away in the same month as the regulations changed. The rest of the industry also caught up, in a couple of years. What that has done is the predominantly metro story is now predominantly a tier 2, tier 3 Bharat story. Every single Indian, no matter where you are, now has the ability to access opening a demat account and building wealth for themselves. So that is a huge story of India that I think has been stellar for us. In the process of Upstox, which was opening about, like I said, 500 accounts a month, we've recently touched 1 million accounts a month as well. And that critically, Amol, is our mission. We are here to say every single Indian deserves a shot at growing their wealth, at building prosperity for themselves and the next generation. For some of us, building wealth is simply a more easy lifestyle, a bigger car or a bigger house. But for a lot of us out there, it is a difference between some basic necessities, better medical facilities, sending kids to school, stuff like that. And that's a transformation that we are hoping to drive. In terms of growth, therefore, we've also seen revenue grow over 100 times in the last 6 years. And we're consistently able to be profitable, Amol. So that's a very interesting business model that we have. We are profitable at a unit economics level, and that's something that we absolutely are very conservative about and will always keep it that way. So it's a choice for us at all times, investing behind growth, investing behind our mission of saying, how do you get 100, 200, 300 million Indians to invest better? versus, of course, making sure that you're doing so profitably.
Right. Could you maybe take a minute or two and elaborate more on how did you become profitable specifically on the unit economics? Because when I speak to a lot of founders or even a lot of CEOs, they're badly stuck with, becoming profitable. And specifically after the funding winter, which I will come to you a little later, the major challenge is now the rally has shifted towards profitability. But now when you're saying that you're already profitable, how did you actually do that?
So Amal, this is something that we've been consistently doing, frankly, for the last so many years, 10 years in this business, right? So we have a playbook and we're very clear about our unit economics as well. So when we decide to go after heavy growth, it is, investment behind growth, but equally our P&L and balance sheet is very carefully constructed so that we can choose to turn off that growth and stay profitable as well, right? So at no point will our fixed costs or the semi-variable costs ever put us in the negative territory. That's something we're very, very careful about. Another thing is, I think we're kind of different from many startups in the sense, of course, Zerodha, which is a brilliant company in our space, and they're fully bootstrapped, right? And then there are many players who have raised a lot of money and perhaps diluted down the founders to, single-digit ownership. We've got this model where we're doing what we think at least is the best of both worlds. As founders, we hold significant majority stock, but we're also willing to take VC fund as it comes along so that we are building behind our mission of saying we want every Indian to invest properly. So that's sort of the fine balance we're running as well. And at all times, knowing that the unit economics, the per customer level works out for us.
So how has the whole scenario of people shifting to the wealth has changed? Because I have been covering this space since quite so long. And like you said, people initially avoided opening demat accounts because of it was, based with the papers and so many documentations were required. But after Aadhaar, a lot of wealth management companies have entered into this business. Additionally, a lot of banks have also started their wealth wings and they are going very aggressive. So how has the whole scenario where people are investing in wealth, are they investing in wealth very aggressively? Do you see that? What has made the difference, Kavitha?
Yeah, I think two things. One is, of course, the tech infrastructure. We already spoke about the availability of internet, but two, young India, and India is a very young India. Young India is very savvy, Amol. Thankfully, we're in great hands. This next generation gets it. They understand. They see the value in what wealth has to offer. If I were to tell you, Amol, that if you were to just invest 5,000 rupees a month, consistently for 25 years in a sort of a equity market like return scenario, 12, 13%, nothing very fancy. Over the course of 25 years, you invested a corpus of 15 lakhs, but you have made a return of 1 crore by just investing 5,000 rupees every single month consistently. And of course, you can imagine that is available to pretty much most Indians. And for most of us, that 5,000 is going to consistently keep increasing. So people are understanding the power of compounding. Yet, I would say, Amol, the one missing link is mostly the question I keep getting asked is, investing karna hai samajh mein aa gaya. And I would really say that Amphi has done a fabulous job at saying mutual funds sahi hai. So people have understood the power of investing. But kahan invest karna hai? That is the question that most people get stuck at. So that's one area that we as Upstox are making sure that we address in a very ethical manner, because a lot of times, one of the annoyances that I face myself pre-Upstox is I would get advice that I would not be able to trust fully, right? It could typically be, I don't know, relationship managers coming to you and saying, hey, why don't you try this product? And I wasn't entirely sure that it was in my best interest, right? So one thing, Amol, very critical to the journey of Upstox is we have Mr. Ratan Tata as an investor at Upstox, right? And so a very early test for us was, you know how they say, a test, like, for example, when I was at McKinsey used to be, are you okay with this being headlines in the paper tomorrow, right? Hamare liye the test is, can you look Mr. Ratan Tata in the eye and tell him you're doing the best possible thing for your customers? Now, that's a very, very high bar, Amol. And that's the creed we live by. Can we consistently say that whatever we're doing is in the long-term best interest of a customer? That's our goal here. We will not do anything for short-term profits, short-term revenues, which may impact any Indian out there who's trying to make their wealth and make their life savings on our platform. So that's a creed and a motto that we live by very, very clearly. Customer first, long-term interest of the customer, the company's success will follow.
No, sure, and that's a kind of a mandatory approach that all the companies operating in customer service should have. But when you specifically spoke about Young India and they're investing, it's good to know that because there is a another impression that the Young India, or specifically the millennials, including Gen Zs, keep scrolling over the Facebook and Instagram more, but not the investments. So that's a very different perspective, Kavita. But did you, by any chance, look at the breakup in terms of your customers, or how much is the proportion of your young customers, specifically if you look at the segment wise? Are the number of customers on your portal higher, specifically from the millennial and Gen Z bracket?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and that's sort of the target segment for us as well. Young India, age below 35, is predominantly represented on our platform. But that said, you know what? Our platform is easy to use and simple enough to use for any generation Indian. My parents are comfortable using it. That's a high bar.
So coming back to now the wealth products, right? Like you said, that where to invest is a big question, and that is the question for everyone, not only for the youngsters but also the old people. So what
Yeah.
are the that you offer to them, and how do you actually pitch it to them? Do you let them decide which is the best product, or you also advise them? Because then it becomes a very different proportion for you, because you're not only giving them a platform but guiding them where to invest. So how this proportion actually works?
Yeah. So see, the first part for us is we are a platform that allows you to come and invest in anything you choose, right? So that's one area for us, which is app driven and so on. But a huge area of focus for us is also the education or the learning and the investor awareness side. So a couple of things we're doing is we're running campaigns across schools and colleges across the country. Like I said, when you're a student, you learn trigonometry and algebra and geometry, but no finance, and we want to remedy that. So that's something that we're running as a campaign across to help educate people on what are the right ways and what are the myths about investing that they should be aware of. For example, a simple thing is people go after returns, but they don't understand that you need to look at the risk as well and the risk-weighted rewards.
Right.
So simple things like that.
Okay, sure. So how many products do you offer on your application right now? And also, if you could give us more sense in terms of how do you actually make money over there, because you're already profitable? Is it on a revenue sharing model, because ultimately you will sell mutual funds and you will get some commission? Again, it's been regulated by the SEBI and all, and also some other wealth products. How does that proportion work, Kavita?
Yeah, so it's very straightforward for us. We offer, for example, everything from stock purchasing, IPO purchasing and selling, mutual funds. We have derivatives trading as well, futures and options. We've got versions of gold buying, et cetera, et cetera. So like the whole gamut is available. In fact, we're revamping our mutual funds offering. A new version will come out soon. And we also have two modes on our app, Amol, and I think this is an industry first. If you are a trader or a professional trader, you have the Upstox Pro mode, right, which is really tailored towards you, towards someone who really understands. And the way we are financially, the economics is very simple. We charge F&O traders on a per order basis, but at a maximum of ₹20 per order. This, as you know, is different from the way the traditional brokers used to charge. Traditionally, the broking industry would charge a paisa model. So the more you invested, the more you pay, but we've capped it at ₹20. So that's our model. Mutual funds, of course, are free because we promote direct mutual funds.
Right. Noted your points. So
and we don't have an fee.
Going ahead, but will you, because when we specifically talk about the wealth management, obviously the equity market will give the highest returns, no doubt about it, followed by mutual funds. But will you also try and add other wealth products on your platform? Is that your plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to be a one-stop shop, not only for wealth, but for the entire gamut of financial services. Frankly, we would like you to just log into Upstox and nothing else. And that's one thing that's missing today, right? If you go to your banking needs, then you need to log into 5 different bank accounts. If you're looking for your wealth needs, there are, usually multiple accounts there. We want you to have a one-stop shop with Upstox. And the leading differentiator for us is A, we'll make it very, very simple for you to achieve whatever your goals are, whether it's investing, whether it's just tracking your net worth. But B, we will always do it in a way which is consumer first. And I know, Amol, you mentioned that in any consumer industry, you need to be consumer first. I think the bar is much, much higher in the financial services industry. There is a lot of advice and tips by well-meaning friends, family members, all the way up to people who run businesses of devs. And it is a huge challenge, frankly, to make sure that people are getting the right advice that is right for them. It's not straightforward. Not many people are focusing on this either, but this is a big part of our mission, making sure that whatever you are doing is in your best interest, is actually new in the financial services industry in some ways.
Well, sure. Noted your points, Kavitha. Now, I would like to also take your perspective on the competition. So, obviously, I mean, whether you or Zerodha or many other apps specifically operating in this space are making a big difference, which is far more lucrative for the young people to come on an app, just download and maybe perhaps scroll over and, buy the stocks, which was not as easy as you're offering with the old or traditional brokers. But now they also got into the race, right? Many of them have launched their apps. They're as glossy as yours. They're offering as seamless service as you are. Maybe they're following your, maybe they realize that digital is the key. So do you see the competition is going to be very high? Because for them, the traditional values, their background, and their consistency of doing business matters a lot for perhaps people, and the legacy also compared to the new people, like Upstox, Zerodha, or many others coming into this picture. So how do you see the whole competition, Kavitha?
Yeah. So multiple points here, Amol. So first, I want to start off by saying, see, our mission, like I said, is to get every Indian to invest. Today, equity participation in India is about the 5% mark, right? Whether US is at 50, even China is at 15 to 20. We are a very, very nascent market, Amol. The goal is to grow the market. More competition is better. Your consumers are eventually going to then end up investing properly, and our mission will be successful. So really, we are all in such an early part of the race that at this point, we need to collectively grow the market versus worry about, beating each other. That's not the goal at all, right? So as an industry, and hopefully as a business, Upstox is leading in the innovation and spurring more people to do better and do good, then we've succeeded, Amol, frankly, right? So that's one thing that I really want to say. The second thing is, one of the things that Upstox has done is that we're focused on mass market branding, mass market advertising, getting the message to more people out there. And that's our mission. That's our goal, right? And so long as we keep innovating, so long as we keep doing the right thing, whether it's improving the product, whether it's first to go paperless, whether it is first to put in nudges on the app and make sure that you're not making something that you're not making a trade or an investment that's detrimental to you. Or for example, we have an offering called the Option Strategy Builder, where on average, it considerably improves your profitability because it forces you to trade in a particular strategy manner, right? So be it all of this, we are consistently at the forefront of innovating customer first. And, should others follow, frankly, it's win-win for all.
Noted your points. But going ahead, do you think that the competition will be very high? Because not only the traditional players, like I said, are entering into digital. Most of the fintechs are also entering into the wealth space because everybody is saying that, people are looking for wealth solutions. So how do you see competition will be panning out in next 2 to 3 years in this space?
Yeah. Some will say, when we started Upstox, we were broker number 250. Right. And this industry had traditional players like the largest banks you can think of, HDFC, ICICI, Kotak, to name a few. Right. And we stayed our course on this journey. We've built a product that we thought was differentiated in terms of the experience, in terms of the pricing, in terms of what we stood for. And the consumers have voted with their feet. And I think it is as simple and as straightforward as saying, if you have a very clear consumer-centric vision and you go after that, then the rest is just bound to follow. And if you are innovative and if you are very clear that all you're going to do is focus every single day on removing barriers to your consumers building their wealth, then your own wealth is bound to follow.
Sure. So you're on which number now?
So it depends on what metric you pick. We're the largest in some cases. We'll be in the top 2 or top 3 in others, but certainly in the discount broking spaces, we are amongst the top players here, obviously. And we're, catapulted many of the discount brokers are actually catapulted well past the banks.
Sure. Noted your points, Kavitha. So going ahead specifically, if I ask you, how do you see the future? You already narrated as your dashboard. Given the current situation, what kind of changes do you see in your company in next 3 to 4 years? What kind of revenue profitability do you see? How many number of customers that you think will be added to this particular segment, and perhaps how long will it take for you to become a number one? If you could share some roadmap for the future for Upstox, Kavitha.
Some will be already number one in terms of, for example, valuation. We're the most highly valued stockbroker wealth platform in India. So already number one on that. We're the number one most loved player on the Play Store. Customers have consistently rated us higher than any other fintech platform in India. So very happy to be number one on these counts, which show us, both first predominantly customer love and investor confidence. Right. In terms of where we want to get to, Amol, like I said, we're not going to stop until 100, 200, 300 million Indians are investing better. And Amol, this is a real insidious problem. You can ask people around you, and most people, and I'm happy to ask you, do you think you're invested properly or appropriately, and do you understand how to invest well? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, absolutely. I mean, sometimes even I should get answer. I should also face some questions, right? So yes, I have been investing, not aggressively, but yeah, in properly I'm investing it. At least, like, I think the pension products, life insurance, health insurance should be part of everyone's profile. I'm not doing a trading, but yeah, I have invested in equity for long term. That's it. But yeah, if you ask me, is it enough? The answer is no. There is always a scope to improvement and add your profile as market changes, right?
Right. And, I never got a feeling that I have some expert watching my back, I'm saying pre-Upstox to say that, hey, Kavitha, this is how you should be thinking about investing. And I wish I had that when I was much younger, right? Yeah. So that's the goal here, to get every tier 2, tier 3 Indian and, hopefully your cooks, maids, drivers, Uber drivers, blue collar workers of India, all of them investing better. It doesn't have to be the equity markets for everybody. Equity markets are not for everybody. Let me please state that there are risks involved with being an equity participant. You need to build your portfolio very carefully. But there are investment options for everybody, no matter what your risk appetite. And our goal is every Indian will then invest optimally in a way that is right for themselves.
Right. Noted your points. So, Kavitha, we have seen an amazing rally, specifically during pandemic. In the last 6 months, obviously, there are a lot of dropouts. People stopped trading or maybe investing as aggressively as they were during the pandemic, because everyone thought investing in market is easy and making $1 billion is also very easy. But they lost something, and then they realized perhaps the products like cryptocurrency doesn't, or maybe doing an intraday trading is not as good as what they thought of. In fact, I have always, been advised and most of the times pitched by these marketeers, if you would have invested 10 years back into this equity today, you would have earned this much. But most of the times, the equity analysts or the mutual fund brokers don't tell you that invest in this and after 10 years, you will certainly get this much. Do you think that a great level of education is required so that the confidence buildup will happen into this market? Because what we see now is a education only on the one side, which is allowing them to invest, but not on a right manner in terms of building the strong profile.
No, 100%, Amol, you hit the nail on the head, right? Historically, that's been the challenge. Most people just paint it as just invest and you're going to make tons of money. So 2 parts I'd like to unpeel to this. Always have a portfolio. You need an allocation into equity as much as you need an allocation into debt and fixed income products. Both are equally important. But at the same time, being super conservative and fully weighted into a debt or a fixed deposits, FD universe as we are today, is equally corrosive to your wealth building journey, right? Because there is a concept of inflation. So, in the earlier example that we were talking about, if you were to invest 5K a month in a 12, 13% return universe, that corpus over 25 years was 15 lakhs. By the way, if you didn't invest it at all, that 1 crore is only 15 lakhs. But guess what? It's not 15 lakhs. It's actually closer to whatever, 4, 5 lakhs, because inflation is eating into it. Right. And that's something which is very important. We all need to keep in mind. Not investing is as risky as taking a extremely risky one-sided bet. So everybody needs to invest in a portfolio of sorts. And I think the important and interesting thing is to understand, what does it mean when you are investing behind the markets? Because most people think of the markets of, oh my God, there is a stock market, it goes up and down every day. But let's understand for a second, what is underlying behind the stock markets? What is underlying behind the Nifty is India's top companies. Right now, we are extraordinarily privileged. We are part of the world's fastest growing GDP ecosystem, right? How lucky are we? And of course, it's not just luck. We are, and our hard work is in turn driving this GDP forward. What it means is us and our hard work are driving the GDP of India, which is via the largest companies of this country. And if you believe the India story, and we have no reason to not believe this, because Amol, we live in a golden era right now. We've just overtaken the UK in terms of GDP. We're on our way in the next 4 or 5 years to overtake Germany and Japan. And in our lifetime, we are going to live to see India overtake the US by 2050 in terms of GDP growth. What an amazing time to be an Indian in India, right? And now imagine this, you are part of the story. You and your hard work are driving this growth forward. Why shouldn't you take advantage of it? Why shouldn't your own wealth journey reflect this incredible growth? So why shouldn't you invest in India's top companies that you believe in, brands that you are part of every day in your life? And that's what we're trying to tell people, right? If you believe in India growth story, you need to have an equity allocation. And of course, most certainly, please do diversify your portfolio. That's critical. That's a huge part of how you build wealth. Absolutely. But if you look at the history of the Sensex and the Nifty, Amol, very interestingly, it's never let you down. Over a long-term time frame, it has consistently given you 12-13% returns.
Absolutely. In fact, India is a bright spot, and we have moved. We have crossed a long journey. In fact, from fragile 5 to where we are today, and whether the World Bank or IMF, everybody is looking at us with a big hope. That sounds interesting, and I think the day when we will cross over USA, like you said, we'll party and replay this video once again for sure. So let me shoot maybe 1 or 2 more questions specifically on the industry, Kavitha. So when we are talking about India's growth story, what kind of contribution that you think the fintechs will play? Because what has happened is they started with a big bang, no doubt about it. Everyone accepted them. They started with the competition. They're playing a great role by collaborating with the banks. But of late, I see that majority of them are struggling to raise funds. It's also because of the funding winter. And also the investors are putting pressure now, specifically after 4 or 5 years of operations, that they should become profitable, right? So how do you see the fintech space, and what kind of contribution do you think that this fintechs will make into India's growth story going ahead?
Right. See, I think fintechs play a massively important role in today's economy that erstwhile banks have played in the past. But in today's tech-savvy world, I think fintechs are leading massively in every single vertical that you can see in terms of growth, access, and bringing more Indians onto the bandwagon, right? And I just want to share with you that I have personally witnessed the power of finance to fundamentally transform below poverty line communities, villages, and bring them out of poverty. A simple act of giving a small loan like 2,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees, which enables people to buy goats, for example, and those goats multiply after 6 months, and miraculously that entire family that couldn't afford 4,000 rupees can now afford 15, 20K, right? And they're out of poverty even by definition. So finance in particular, of all the universes of startups that we have, finance in particular has the power to do a lot of good. And it is very, very critical that every single Indian, no matter where you are, has access to the same kind of finance that you and I take for granted, Amol. You and I took having a bank account for granted, but 20 years ago, many Indians didn't have that. You and I take loans available for granted. You and I take the ability to invest for granted. Most Indians didn't have that, in the old paper-based era. So it's very, very critical that every single Indian have access to financial services. And I think insofar as fintechs are leading the way in innovation, leading the way in access, leading the way in making the whole journey fun, interesting, and engaging for a young millennial, they have a very important role to play here. I believe going forward, you would probably see a lot more cooperation between banks and fintechs. And I think that will be a more balanced, symbiotic ecosystem going forward.
Sure, but by any chance, do you see any hurdles specifically for fintechs raising funds? Because fintech funding winter is what I learned, Kavitha. And how do you see, the overall profitability model of the fintechs, which everybody is chasing on now? Why I'm asking you this is because you are a profitable company now, right?
And different fintechs have their own models, but I'm sure everybody's going to find their way, because across all verticals in the startup space, I think fintech across its own sub verticals is uniquely poised, Amol, to be profitable. So I do believe that most fintechs will figure this out and either stand alone or maybe there's some amount of consolidation happening in the space. But I think fintechs need to be encouraged. It's vital for India's growth story. So I'm sure we'll find a way.
Sure. I think just last point, maybe a cross question. Will you elaborate more on the consolidation part? Do you think it is going to happen? Because we have lots of them in maybe one segment catering to the similar segment.
Yeah, so look, I'll speak for my space, right? In the sort of the broking and the wealth space, it's heavily fragmented.
Right.
And SEBI is also been consistently coming out with newer and newer regulations to ensure, obviously, customer well-being. And ergo, it may happen that some of the smaller players will find it difficult to sort of keep up with the regulations. So that's something that potentially may happen. And, as in many spaces, there's always been consolidation over a period of time. So if there are players that struggle, potentially there'll be consolidation, is how I'm reading it.
Sure. Noted your points, Kavitha. It was a great learning for me. And I'm sure the audience of ETBFSI will love your views and understand your perspective on the fintech segment. Thanks for joining and sharing your perspective here, Kavitha.
Amol, thank you. Very kind of you. And thanks for having me. Really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks for watching Fintech Diary on etbfsi.com. Stay tuned, stay connected. Thank you.